Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the BeBall Jones podcast. We have a special episode on today, man. This guy is someone I've known for a few years now. We know each other, met each other a while back, and we just kind of kept in touch here and there. Um, First off, I had to get him on here because number one, he's a real good dude, real good guy to be around, guy to talk to, and number two, got a different angle, different perspective in basketball to talk about. He is on the women's side of things. We usually talk about the guys. We had a lot of guys on here from their side of perspective, but I wanted to get the different side of the game and have the women's game in here. So I had to get in an assistant coach for you guys for a women's basketball team. But I'm gonna let him introduce you guys a little bit better, man. So welcome in Joel Harrison. What's up, bro?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I am wonderful, man. I'm glad to have you on the podcast, man.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
So let's go ahead and get into it, man. Introduce yourself to the people. Let us know about who you are and everything you got going on.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Joel Harrison. I'm the assistant women's basketball coach at the University of West Florida. We're an NCAA Division II school located in Pensacola, Florida. Just finished up my first season there, and just completed my first, I guess, recruiting cycle. So off season and looking forward to getting in a year or two and, kind of building on what we built last year.
Mm. So what's your schedule like right now? Like, what are you getting into right now with summertime?
Right now, July is a big recruiting time, really for every college coach in the country. It's one of the what they call live periods, so coaches are able to be out and actively recruit student athletes. So there's a lot of huge tournaments going on, in different parts of the country right now. And then there's the second round of tournaments in this live period and the week after next. So just looking at prospects, kind of looking out into the future, kind of seeing, what we need in certain positions, what spots we like to fill, what different skill sets we like to fill to go along with what we've already got. So we're already, we just actually completed our recruiting class for the 2022 class. So this upcoming year. So now we can kind of shift on, 2023, start looking to see what's out there, and try to fill some needs.
So I was always curious about like the recruiting part of stuff, like because I know a specific coach that has that title. So basically, for you, you get like no days off, really. Like there's no vacation time. It's just year round grind.
So it's just one of those things. Like as a coach, I mean, you're always recruiting never really ends. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm constantly getting emails from kids, literally from all over the world. Obviously the transfer portal is a hot topic right now, so I'm constantly in the transfer portal as kids enter their names. Checking out stats, game film, that sort of thing. Obviously, when the high school season cranks up, looking at high school kids in the area and just other areas that I'm familiar with and JUCOs as well. So I mean, there's a lot of different angles with the recruiting side. Right now, for us, because we are done with that 22 class, and we will have the majority of our team returning the following year. So we'll only have to sign a couple of kids. So it's not as hectic for me as it was this past off season. We actually had to sign 9 new players. So
Ooh.
I've been going literally. Our season ended March 2nd. We lost our tournament game, so I've been going from March 4th to literally last Friday, recruiting, trying to fill those 9 spots. And thankfully we did that with a lot of talented kids that we're excited about. So for me right now, like I said, it's kind of shifting to the future, but it's not as hectic as some others. It's kind of depending on how many kids you actually have to sign and what your needs are for your program.
Mm. So what's the transfer part of being like? Because I know that's once they open it up, it got a little bit not worse, but a little bit more chaotic every summer after. So what's that been like lately?
Yeah, so the transfer portal right now, so there's actually deadlines that players had to abide by to enter their names in to be eligible to play, like this upcoming year. So right now, both of those deadlines for Division 1 and Division 2 have passed. So there's still some kids entering the portal here and there, but it's not nearly as hectic as it was like back February, March, April, May. I mean, that time frame. I mean, there was anywhere from 30 to 25 to 40 kids entering in daily. So I mean, it's one of those things literally like I'm having to refresh that thing like every 15, 30 minutes because I put my laptop down for an hour. I come back, I'm already behind because there's another 15, 20 kids that have entered. So it's just one of those things that's kind of overwhelming. I mean, as last I checked, there was a little over 2,100 kids names in the transfer portal. That's Division 1 through Division 3. Now, obviously, some of those kids have, since they entered, been picked up. Now,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it doesn't tell you on the portal like who has and who hasn't, committed to different schools. So you kind of have to do your research on that. But that's a huge increase from last year where there was only like 1,700 kids in the portal. So huge increase. And I know there's a lot of rumors and feelings and stuff, flying around about it. But they've opened the box and it's not going anywhere. And it's just kind of the direction that, college athletics is headed. So it's just one of those things that alone is a full-time job, trying to keep up with the portal and obviously, stay competitive and, obviously, sign the best kids that you can get. But it was interesting for me because, like I said, this was my first off season actually, as the full-time recruiting coordinator for our program. So just kind of navigating that was interesting, but it was a lot of fun.
Man, that just sounds like a handful, honestly, because like you said, you got to deal with the class that you already have and the school that you're at. Then you have to worry about pretty much every school around because you know who can drop out and transfer and put the name in the portal, whose name is out, and you can't even see whose name is in there. So it's just like to even like get 5 seconds of sleep would be a miracle for you guys. Like I know I probably couldn't do it, man. I mean, I probably could, but I wouldn't want to deal with that headache of doing all this stuff, man.
No, it's
God,
a
it's too
lot.
much.
It's a lot. Like I said, recruiting is really my passion. Like that's one of the things in college coaching that I really enjoy is the recruiting side. So as time consuming as it is, I enjoy it. But like I said, it's one of those things. There were so many names popping in there that there were plenty of nights from staying up, past midnight, just trying to stay on top of it. Because I know like if I miss a day of the portal, I'm already 30 to 40 names behind, or sometimes even 15, 20 minutes I can get behind. So like I said, just staying on top of that, trying to get the best kids that we can for our program. It is very time consuming, but like I said, I enjoy it. It's a challenge. It kind of gives you that GM feel. We play 2K, and back in the day when you were little, you create your own teams and stuff like
Yep.
that. Like it kind of gives you that feel. So I mean, it's just the challenge of okay, I know what we have to offer here, and let's go try to get the best kids we can, and kind of see how things happen. So it's a challenge for me, but I enjoy it.
Mm. So you said this is kind of a passion of yours. Is this something that you always grew up wanting to do, or did it kind of like transition throughout life and it just kind of morphed into this?
So ironically, coaching was something that I never wanted to do, which is crazy that my career is kind of taken off to this point. But it's just one of those things. Like I've always been around the game. I played the game from age 6 all the way up through high school. I actually did not play in college at all. I was actually a student manager for a men's basketball program at the school that I graduated from, Fulton University, which is an NAIA school in Montgomery, Alabama. And I just jumped in, not really knowing what I wanted to do with it. Like I said, I said coaching was something that I never wanted to do. And then we actually went through a coaching change my third year with the program. And that kind of sparked some interest in some things, just, a fresh face coming in, some new ideas. And then the first coach that I worked for, he was awesome as well. So I was fortunate to work under 2 amazing coaches out of the gate. And just being around those guys, on a daily basis kind of sparked some interest and some different things. And once I kind of determined, okay, this is the route that I wanted to go, I said I would never coach, and I said I would never coach on the women's side, and I'm doing both of them and love every minute of it. But, once I jumped into the coaching side and determined that's what I wanted to do, I just enjoy, like, meeting people. I mean, I enjoy, like, going out, scouting talent. Like I said, just kind of that GM mindset of, putting a team together, team building, like the challenge of competing for, high caliber, high talented kids, and just, reaching out to kids, getting to know kids, parents, coaches, AAU coaches, and just the challenge of, like I said, competing for them and convincing them that your, university is the best place for them to succeed, both on and off the floor. It's just something that I kind of gravitated to. And once I kind of got in the recruiting scene and got to know, AAU coaches and, stuff like that, I just kind of figured out that I had somewhat of a talent for it just from, the feedback that I got from the coaches that I was working for. And it just kind of took off from there. So when I interviewed for my job here at UWF, I, put on my resume, I did all the recruiting for the school that I was at. That's a passion of mine. I've got connections that I've built throughout the years with, kids coaches, both AAU and high school. And, that, like I said, that's a passion. And, she let me run with it. And here we are. So it's one of those things, like I said, it kind of, developed over time. But, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's really the thing that I enjoy the most about the college game.
So walk me through the process of getting to Faulkner before coaching. Like, walk me through the process of you getting to there.
Yeah, got you. So, like I said, Faulkner University is in Montgomery, Alabama. So it's literally 10 minutes from where I grew up. So I went to school locally, which was never the plan, but the way I got to Faulkner. So every summer I went to Faulkner University's basketball camps, literally from age like 11 to 17, I think. And just through the years, I got to know the coaching staff because, like I said, they basically saw me grow up, and they would invite me and my high school team to games, so I would go and support. Like I said, they're right up the road and they were in town, so it was college basketball, and I was just around. And when it came time for me to graduate, I was picking schools and kind of seeing some things that I wanted to do. The assistant there at the time, he told me, he was like, I know, you're not gonna play, basically, which I knew that. I was realistic. Like I'm not one of those guys that was sitting here saying I'm going to the league, and I was realistic. I knew my playing days were over when my high school career ended. So I knew I wanted to be involved with the game. I just didn't know how. So he told me, it was like, hey, if you're interested, we've got a manager position, with your name on it. Like it's literally yours unless you tell me you don't want it. So originally I was planning to go to Troy University. That was my dream. Like I had it lined up, like I was going. And then there was a deadline that I had to let Faulkner know if I was going to attend or not to secure my housing. And I had to talk with my dad. We listed out some pros and cons, and I just determined that the opportunity with the basketball program that I was going to get was something that I needed to take seriously. Like I said, at the time I didn't know why, because I didn't want to coach, but I just jumped in it. So I took that opportunity, and like I said, I went from, manager, obviously doing the dirty work, wiping up floors, doing laundry, getting water, packing travel equipment, game day setup, filming games, filming practices, all that sort of thing, to, kind of making a name for myself and, working my way up the chain. So I went from doing some dirty work to, earning the trust of the coaching staff. So they allowed me to, get into a little bit of scouting. So, I was able to do some scouting stuff as a manager, get involved with camps and, helping run camps, and getting involved on the recruiting side, and, being involved with recruiting visits and kind of learning that side. And, my head coach, he was great about literally just letting me sit in on meetings and listen to ideas and ask him questions. And, just a lot of these things just kind of piqued some interest. So I was really fortunate to be where I was and have that opportunity to literally get my hands in a little bit of everything, to the point where literally my senior year as a manager, every game I would sit next to the head coach, and it got to the point where he would ask me sometimes like in-game strategies. I'll never forget it. Conference championship game, my junior year in 2016. We were a 4 seed, I believe, and we actually won our conference championship game that year. But I'll never forget it. We come out of a time, we're about to go into a timeout, and he looks at me and asks me, what do we need to do defensively here? Do we need to switch to a zone, and do we need to go to man? And at the time, like, just the way the game was going, I was like, Coach, we need to switch to our zone, because like we did that in the first half. It was giving them fits, like this and that. We switched to the zone, and that ended up being a game changer, and ultimately helped us win the game. So and I'm not taking credit for that at all, but I'm just saying, like, the trust that I was able to build, with our coaching staff as a manager really springboarded everything for me. So I'm forever thankful for, that setup. But that's ultimately like what got me to Faulkner. And then obviously, going through as a manager, once I graduated, my goal was to, to go up the ladder. Obviously, GA, assistant, and head coach on the men's side. Like, that was all I ever knew. And, that was what I was in, and that's what I was used to. So, and I honestly, the summer where I was going through all that, that's where I met you at Sanford camp. Because I was getting out, trying to meet other coaching staffs and network and kind of do that sort of thing, just get my name out there as a young, coach looking to get into the business, but it's super competitive. And I'll never forget it. So during my time at Faulkner, I had built a relationship with the women's coach because we traveled together. We play back to backs. We just do what we had. I had worked some camps with him, so we just got to know each other. And I had actually interviewed for a junior college assistant spot on the men's side in North Alabama, and I was going to take it because at the time that's all I had. And I'll never forget it. The women's coach, he pulled me in his office and was like, "Hey, I've got a grad assistant spot. It looks like it's about to open up, and I've watched you over the years. You're good at what you do, and I basically the spot is yours unless you tell me you don't want it." And that was crazy to me because, like I said, I had never considered women's basketball. I said I was never going to do that. But obviously, as a grad assistant, you get your grad school paid for. So I was like, well, I'd be crazy to pass up that. So even if I jump in and hate it, like at least I get grad school paid out of it. I get to learn under another good head coach, and I'll just make out of it what it is. And man, that was the best decision I've ever made in my life. And like I said, it really springboarded everything. So I was a GA for 1 year. My first year with the women's program, we actually went 26-5. We actually made it to the NAIA national tournament and lost to a really good team first round in the round of it used to be 32 teams. Now they expanded it to 64, but we lost in the first round to who was a team that was number 3 in the country. They were really good. We had them on the ropes, but they pulled away later. But later that summer, our full-time assistant actually left and took a different job, and my head coach literally elevated me from GA to full-time assistant. He was like, you've been around. I trust you. Like, I'm not going to interview anybody else for the spot. Like, it's yours. We're going to figure this thing out. Like, I got you. So I jump in as a 23-year-old guy, only being a GA for 1 year, into a full-time assistant role with, a program. So now it's the big show. You go from GA to assistant, your responsibilities change drastically overnight. So, I was fortunate to be granted that opportunity. And, I did that for the last 3 years. And then, ultimately last summer, my head coach that I worked for was the one that went way out of his way to help me get my job here at UWF. When he noticed it was open, he contacted the coach. He went to bat for me, put in a great word for me. And, I came down and interviewed, and she offered it to me the next day, and I accepted it. So I owe Faulkner University literally my entire coaching career because I was there for 10 years, both as a student, a GA, and an assistant coach. And that's literally why I am who I am and where I am today. So it was an amazing experience.
Yo, that's crazy, bro. Like,
yeah.
pretty much both positions you had were like, hey, you want it? All right, here you go, bro. Like, it's like, you got it. It's yours. That's dope, bro. Like,
absolutely. But one thing I'll say to that for all the young listeners out there, and I'm careful the way I say it because I never want to be too prideful in the way I say this, but like, you hear it all the time, but like, I've seen it firsthand. I've lived it. Like, people are always watching you. Like, when you least expect it, people are always watching, because that's honestly the way that I was able to, I guess for lack of a better term, walk into some of those positions without really having to do much, because I had already built up the trust on the back end. I had built relationships with those people on the back end. Like, they saw my work ethic every day. Like, they saw my attention to detail. They saw my grind. So when it came time to, consider me for positions, in their mind, it was a no-brainer, because there's like, I've seen you work. Now I just got to get you on my side and get you acclimated to what we do. So people are always watching. Never forget that. When you least expect it, like, somebody's watching you. So that was advice that was given to me early on, and I'll never forget it.
Yeah, I can vouch for that too, because I still feel weird about that sometimes, because it's like, I'm kind of low key, so I don't like expect people to be watching me sometimes. But then it'd be like, yeah, I know you, man. You da da da. I'm like, hold on, like, time out. How do you know me? Like,
same here. Absolutely.
So yeah, man, I got to co-sign that, because it's so many opportunities that I've had that then I can't even like take credit for, honestly, man. Kind of like what you were saying. It's just like you being at the right place at the right time and being who you're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And somebody's watching you. It's like, come on, you're already good. Like, hold on, like, I'm good. Yeah, you walking into it. So, but that's a lot of favor in your life, man, for you to have both of those positions just like that, man. So,
whole lot of favor.
Yeah, man. So, you said one thing that I kind of want to go deeper into.
For sure.
The difference between the grad assistant and assistant coach. So, like, what's the main differences between those two that stand out to you?
Yeah, so every GA spot in every program is probably different, just kind of based off of what your head coach expects of you. I know when I was a GA, so like I said, I was at an NAIA school. So I was, obviously I would be a grad assistant for the varsity team. So I would help with travel, meals, um, anything coach needed, dirty work, like, running, go get this, pick up this person from, the airport, or, I was able to help recruit. Obviously I was helping with recruiting visits. And then at my school, we actually had a JV team. So I was actually the head coach of our JV team. So that's another thing that really played in my favor that I didn't realize how big of a deal it was until when I interviewed for my job here at UWF, because I walked into that interview with 3 years of head coaching experience at the college level. Now, granted, it is on a little, it is on a lesser level somewhat. I mean, because as a JV coach, we played other JV teams in junior colleges, but I mean, there's no substitute for head coaching experience, really, regardless of what level it is. So I was able to literally run that JV team like my program. So I did all the recruiting, I did the budget stuff for it. Like I said, I ran my own practices, coached my own games. Like I ran that like my program. So that allowed me just another perspective, on the head coaching side. So like when head coaches make certain decisions in game, or, just culturally, I kind of understand some of that already because I've been there, I've done that. Like I've had some of those experiences, as a head coach. So my GA experience basically consisted of those things. I helped scout a little bit. But like I said, I was only a GA for 1 year. So mine wasn't as extended as some others that I know. But when I switched over to assistant coach, now obviously your head coach's right-hand man, especially at the small school level, because it's literally head coach, myself, GA. Like it's a 3-man staff. So you're running a program with 3 people, and at some of the bigger levels, they'll have 4 or 5 assistants, Dobos, multiple GAs, and all that stuff. So, I get to assistant coach, recruiting coordinator, head of scouting. I'm the first one to kind of lay eyes on the scouting reports of the opponents and stuff like that. Towards the end of my years at Faulkner, I kind of dabbled in some of the budget stuff and just kind of some of the deeper ins and outs of the program. Obviously, recruiting, like I said, helping with practice planning, helping with game planning. Some of those things, still with travel. Some of that stuff didn't change, but that just wasn't as high on my plate. And then, so like the challenge for me was at Faulkner, I was a full-time assistant, but 2 of those 3 years as assistant, I was still coaching JV. So I had a full plate. Like there were multiple times, like I might have up to 3, 4, 5 games a week if I've got a couple JV games here, a couple varsity games there. So, I mean, there were a couple times I'd have a game literally almost every night. So that was a grind. But I knew for me as a young coach, like I needed that experience. Like I needed that on my resume because like I'm a believer like in myself. Like I learn best when I'm thrown into the fire and I'm able to, and I don't have time to think. I just got to make something happen. And it was a lot of early mornings, late nights, long days running helping run 2 programs. But it really set me up for, like I said, last summer when I interviewed for my job at a, Division II school at the NCAA level, in the interview, my coach asked me like, oh, in academics, I forgot about that too. Like, overseeing academics, obviously that's most important. I should have said that first, but, interviewed, my head coaches asked me, what do you have experience in? I'm like, dude, you name it. I've probably tried it at least once. Cause I mean, at the small school level, like your hands are in everything. So I'm really appreciative that I was able to start, at the NAI level. Because like I said, I was able to get my hands in a little bit of everything. And that really set me up for, what I'm kind of doing now. Cause I'm doing a lot of the same things now. It's just kind of on a little bit bigger scale with a few more resources. And obviously I'm at an NCAA school versus an NAIA. So, but that's kind of the differences in my, instance, going from GA to assistant, and then obviously assistant at an NAIA to assistant at a Division II school now.
So what is the JV team? Because honestly, I didn't know about that for a super long time. So just like explain more what the JV is.
So I've answered this question probably a million times because a lot of people don't realize that, colleges have JV teams. So you see it a lot at the smaller schools, like I said, NAIAs, Every now and then you'll see them at some Division twos, and then some junior colleges will even have JVs. It just kind of depends on the scenario, but and everybody's situation is different. So we were actually able to offer some scholarship money. Now, it wasn't a lot, but I mean, we were able to offer kids a little bit of money, to entice them to come to our school. So we basically told them on the front end, basically, if we're recruiting you as a JV player, it's for one of two reasons. It's either that's the level of talent that you are, and that's no knock on a kid to say that you're a JV level player, because the way we used ours is we kind of used our JV team as almost like a minor league system for the major leagues. So like you'll get to play right away. You're going to get to develop. You're going to get to play against, talent that's kind of closer to where you are right now. And you're going to get that experience right out of the gate versus if you're not ready for varsity, you either A, won't be here at all, or B, you might be on the roster, but you won't play at all. So it's tough to develop if you just know, like, I'm never going to play. So like I said, we use it kind of as a minor league system. So we would develop them, we'd work on, strengths, weaknesses. Obviously, like I said, you get that game experience against other JVs and JUCOs. And, we had many kids over the years that, developed in our program, and we're like, you're ready. So we pulled them from JV, to our varsity roster, and we just kind of use it that way, or vice versa. If we had a kid on our varsity roster that either A, wasn't playing a lot, but needed some playing time, or, maybe coming back from an injury and needed just some minutes to kind of, do that sort of thing, we could pull a varsity kid down and kind of use it as, like the G League does for the NBA. So that's the way we used it. And obviously, it's a way for the university to allow, more kids to come to your school and be a part of, the women's basketball umbrella. But literally everybody runs JV completely different. That's the way we ran ours. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I'm not bragging on myself at all, but I have to say this because, like, before I took over, they were a little suspect, but I had the record for best record in a season. We went 10-1 my first year. My second year, we went 10-3. So we had the record for best record, 2 consecutive double-digit win seasons, and then I've got the best overall record. I think my overall record in 3 years was like 26-11 or something like that. So, but I say all that to say, like, I think we did me and the assistants that I had, we did a really good job of obviously coaching those kids, developing those kids, and putting them in positions to where, they were able to succeed. And like in my 3 years as the head coach, I want to say I had 3 or 4 kids pulled up to varsity. So I'm extremely proud of that because obviously, what we were doing worked, and my head coach was able to see the development in them and trust them enough to put them on the varsity roster, and and even get some minutes in some critical moments. So I'm proud of that. And like I said, even as a young coach, like just having that head coaching experience, like it's a little different. Like when you sitting in that assistant seat, you got all the answers. But when you slide over that head coaching seat, you got 15 sets of eyes looking at you to drop a last second play. You learn real quick, like, okay, it's a little different. So there was a little bit of pressure there that, like I said, I was thrown into the fire, and you don't know what you don't know until you're in that situation. But for my development, that was everything for me because I have a better understanding and appreciation for the reasons why head coaches do what they do, So it was awesome. But that's how we ran our JV program.
Yeah, I can relate to a little transition difference from assistant coach to head coach because I told myself early on, like, had a scramble point where you like, all right, what's next for my basketball life and my next for my career? The first thing off my list was coaching. I was like, that's what I'm not. I'm not coaching, bro. I'm not doing it. And so, I went into training, but then part of my training, the guy I was with, of him.
Yeah, for sure.
He had the program and everything. So I was helping him with that. And I was like, at first I was like, but all right, man, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So went ahead, did that, and then I was like, oh, I'm be assistant coach. He's like, no, you can be the coaching the actual team. And I was like, oh, me? All right, cool. I'm gonna figure something out. So, it's a little different when, hey, man, you think you should do this, man, because this happened, that's happened, whatever. But it's actually you to have the answer. Like you said, it's different between having all the questions and stuff. You, hey, coach, you think you should do this or that, whatever. It's different. You have to on the other side, you have to answer the question. It's like, What are we doing now, coach?
Yep. and is not good enough. You gotta be
Yeah.
quick thinking on your feet. Like it's challenging for sure. And the ones that
Yeah.
do it at a high level, like I have so much appreciation for them because
Oh
like
yeah. Yeah.
until you're in that seat, you never know it. That's why I laugh at so many people that obviously coach these coaches on Twitter and like, these coaches from the couch. I'm like, guys, you have no idea. Like
Yeah.
no idea. But I mean, I get it. It is what it is.
Yeah. It's so much that goes into it. Like you said, you don't fully understand and appreciate it until you're the one in that seat. Like even like you said, even as assistant coach, sometimes you don't fully understand that head coaching spot until you are the head coach. So
For
even
sure.
at my little level of travel basketball, I still understand like a percentage of that heat that you got to deal with, man.
For
But
sure. And I coached AAU too. So I mean I get it. Like and I understand, that
yeah.
brings its own pressures of just the politics of
Oh yeah.
obviously everybody wanting to play and just especially now with just the ranking system and all that stuff. So that's a whole nother beast in itself. But AAU was actually my first coaching experience. So I get it.
Yeah.
So
That's something that I'm not opposed to going back into doing, but I definitely want to be like, I don't think I ever want to run my own program. That's a whole other
for sure.
beast on its own. But being under somebody running their program, all right, cool, we can do that. But just
For
like
sure.
doing my own, I can have that. Just
Yeah.
what
Nah,
plays you want me to
it's
run? I got you. I can do that.
absolutely. No, I'm with you on that for sure.
So yeah, man. So now you're at West Florida, man. So tell me about that experience. What's the difference being like, man?
Yeah, so like I said, on a daily basis, I'm doing a lot of the same things. Like I said, we're just kind of on a little bit bigger scale because the school I'm at, we're about 13,000 students. So I mean, we're actually bigger than a lot of mid-major Division I schools. Student population wise. We've got an extremely successful athletic department. Every sport competes for championships literally all the time. We've got 10 national championships in our athletic department. We've got 115 conference championships across all of our sports. So that alone, just the pressures of winning is expected, and walking into that and being in that environment, like you feel it off the bat. Like, and me as a competitor, like to some that might be a little intimidating, but I love that. Like I love the challenge of, like I said, winning is expected. That's a different mindset than like, a lot of schools in the country that some are just happy to be competitive at all. So not only is it that, it's like, if you're not competing for a championship, it was literally, considered a quote unquote bad season.
Yeah.
So, that was a big difference just in the transition. Obviously, being at a bigger school with 13,000 students, obviously being in an NCAA institution, having access to the transfer portal, that changed things obviously for me recruiting wise because I've got resources to, 2,100 kids that I didn't have, the last 3 years or 4 years of, at my NAIA school. So, that's kind of changed things because that's kind of opened up a whole new world of, I went from, just mainly kind of high school and junior college kids to high school, junior college, and the portal, Division I, II, and III transfers. So, and just having a few more resources. Obviously, we're located in Pensacola, so I mean, I live like 25 minutes from Pensacola Beach, so obviously that's nice to recruit too. Like that helps. I mean, we've got a great, campus, great athletic facilities. And I mean, our conference, the Gulf South Conference, we got one of the toughest conferences in the country in Division II basketball. So it's extremely tough, top to bottom. Our top 4 teams in our league. So Union University, they're in Jackson, Tennessee. They were number 1 in the country last year. Valdosta State University is in Valdosta, Georgia. They actually finished number 2 in our league, and they actually made it to the Division II Elite 8, so they were really good. Lee University is in Cleveland, Tennessee, and then we finished 4th. So we were actually a half game outside of 3rd. We split with Lee, and if we would have beat them the second time, we'd have been 3rd, and they would have been 4th. But our league is such, like, even the last place team in our league had us on the ropes. And, we were just happy to get out of there with a W on their home floor. So there's no nights off. Records go out the window. You can't take anybody lightly because anybody in our conference can catch you slipping on a nightly basis. And like I said, as a competitor, I love that because it brings the best out of you as a coach. Like, You can't come into a game, underprepared because you will get exposed. There's a lot. Every coach in our league is high level, um, a high level coach, and run their program. In a high level, we've got very high caliber, talented players in our league. We've got Division I transfers, Division II transfers, junior college, high school. Like we got a little bit of everything in our league. So I mean, it's tough, and like that was an eye opener to me because like college basketball is college basketball, so there's good basketball at every level. And I know like obviously Division I is kind of what's thrown in your face and what you see, but I mean even at the NAIA level, like some of the best players that I've ever seen with my two eyes have been at the NAIA level. So even as good of basketball as that was, it was very apparent to me very quickly that this was a step up from where I was. Just the pace of the game was faster. The caliber of players is a little higher. Teams are a little deeper. The level of coaching just across the board is a little higher. And it's just a little more challenging and really forced me to, as, one of the guys that scouts our opponents first, I got to really be on it. So that really stretched me as a young coach to, really go into those games prepared and, and give my head coach the information that she needed. And then between the two of us, to come up with a game plan to obviously put us in place. So, we went 19-8 this past year. So we had a, pretty good year. We had a 10-game win increase from the year prior. So that was nice. I mean, obviously walking into the year and, having a 19-8 year. But like I said, the expectation at our school is to compete for championships. So as great as that year was for us, unfortunately, we lost first round of our conference tournament on our home floor. So depending on who you talk to, it's almost like the 19 wins never happened because it's like, yeah, you did that, but you lost the big one. So it's kind of like that, kind of caught in between. But like I said, I love that challenge because it's like, okay, 19 wins, that was cool, but I'm not satisfied with that. That wasn't good enough. Let's go recruit better. Let's, coach better. Let's prepare better. And let's go do this thing all over again. And not only do it, let's go exceed that and let's go compete for a championship. And I'm not one of those guys, trust the process is a term that you hear in sports a lot. And to some people, trust the process means the process of a 3-4 year span. I'm like, I want to win now. So let's find a way to make this happen. So, we went into the off season, recruiting, like thinking that way, like we're going for it. We're swinging for the fences. We're trying to get, the most highly talented kids that fit, our scheme and our culture and our school, academically and on the floor. And let's put this thing together and let's go do it. And like I said, we had to go sign 9 kids. And, I feel good about, what we brought in. And, now I feel like it's on us as coaches to put them in the positions to succeed. So that's the challenge. And they'll show that 19-8 wasn't a fluke.
So can you, I know it's different from year to year, but like you said, your mindset there is more of a win now. So with that mindset, do you kind of, when you have a positions open, do you kind of go more towards the transfer portal or do you kind of go more towards the high school recruiting route? Like, how do you decide what makes the most sense for your win now situation?
Yeah, that's a great question because I actually get asked that a lot too. Because obviously, like I said, the transfer portal is a hot topic right now. And on top of that, because of that COVID season, when every college kid got granted another year, that really impacted the high school kids on the recruiting side of things. We're not the type of program that says, we're never going to sign a high school kid and we're only going to take transfers because we actually have a 2023 high school kid committed already. So, I mean, and we've got other high school kids on our roster. Like we actually had the freshman of the year in our conference on our roster last year, and she's coming back and she'll be a sophomore. So it's 100% for us, need-based. And like when I say need-based, like when I'm looking at a kid or at a potential prospect for our, program, I'm asking myself one of two things. One, do they feel a need in a weak area for our program, or are they better than somebody that we've already got? So every kid that I'm evaluating, like as I'm at, high school games, AAU tournaments, really doesn't matter. I'm asking myself one of those two questions. And it literally just boils down to, okay, as I'm kind of cycling through, who are the best kids and, kind of building my list at different positions and stuff like that. I don't care if they're a high school kid, JUCO kid, D1, D2 transfer. I don't care. We want the best players we can get. So if that ends up being a Division I transfer, we'll kind of go that route. If it ends up being a high school kid, we'll go that route. But our program, we're open to any and everybody. Like we're not, necessarily discriminating towards, against high school kids or whatever like that. Now, one might look at our recruiting class of 9 transfers and try to contest that. I think this year was kind of a unique situation for us just because, like I said, coming off that 19 wins and with the majority of our team being upperclassmen, it was kind of one of those things, and it kind of ended up turning into the transfers that we brought in fit immediate needs for, okay, we got to go try to do 19 plus wins all over again. So like in our current situation, that's kind of how it was for us. And at the Division II level, like the way we run things, we kind of are like a year by year based recruiting wise, which was different for me because at my NAI school that I was at Faulkner, I mean, we were recruiting 2-3 years down the line. Like, I mean, we literally, like when I left a year ago, we had already offered 2 2023 kids, and we're working on a couple more. We had contacted some 24s, and we even had our eyes set on some 25s. So it's just a little bit different strategy. I mean, neither side is wrong. It's just a little bit different scenario, from one place to another. So the kids that we brought in, kind of fit specific needs for us. We needed some kids to come in and be starters out of the gate, and we've got some kids that'll be that. We needed some kids to come in and fit specific, weak areas that we had in our team last year. As good as we are, like we had weak areas. So, we were able to go out and get kids that fit those needs. So just now in this current off season, that's kind of how it was for us. And that's kind of what we focused on. But like I said, like in the 23 class, like we've already got a high school kid committed. So we don't really discriminate. I mean, if you're good enough to play for us, like we're open to any and everybody. So, and I know that's not the case for every program, but that's just kind of how we do things.
So when I kind of want to zoom out a little bit now. So when you think about the women's game overall, like you said, you didn't want to go into women's, and that's kind of like it was a weird situation for you. So like when you think about the women's game, not to compare to the men's game, but like what are some of the differences? Like not to compare, but to compare, if that makes sense.
For sure. So first off, I'll say like obviously that was an ignorant statement of me to make back then, just because I was young and just didn't really give it a chance. I think if people would really give the women's game a chance, they'd really be impressed by what they see. Like women's basketball is extremely high level and is actually very entertaining. Like I think it's just one of those things, like obviously just the casual basketball fan that doesn't really know, just the ins and outs strategies or whatever. What are they looking for? They're looking for dunks. They're looking for, mega athletic chase down blocks and, all these, superhuman plays. But I'm like, even though the women's game might not have those specific things, it has everything else that you're looking for. I mean, you look at some of the best women's players in the world. Sabrina Ionescu, like, setting the WNBA record for the first ever 30-point triple-double in WNBA history. Like, that's amazing. Like, you look at the Candace Parkers, the Sue Birds, Diana Taurasi's, like, I mean, these women are extremely talented. And not to mention a lot of the guys that are, talking down on women's basketball, I dare you guys to go play them one-on-one because I guarantee you, like, they will give you the business. Like, I mean, even in our program, like, and I'm doing drills with our girls, I'm playing dummy defense and stuff like that. Like, I got to work a little bit. Like, it's not like, like, I'm not, like I said, I didn't play college basketball. So, I mean, I played growing up, but I'm not high caliber player by any means. But if you come out there half stepping, like, you'll get exposed. Like, so if people would really give it a chance, I think they'd really be impressed by what they see. Now, to compare the two, I think the women's side is a more pure form of the game. Just because, and I say that because, like, not to say there aren't athletic women, because there clearly are, but like, I think so many guys get over on just athleticism alone. Like, you hear it every year in the draft, like, guys are drafted off of potential. oh, he's a mega athlete, but 3 years from now he can develop into this or
Mm-hmm.
that. So we're gonna draft him as a lottery pick in hopes that he turns into this based solely off of athleticism. And
Yep.
then what happens? You see so many guys that are mega athletic that never develop. 2 years down the line, they're not in the league anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they never had that base of skill and fundamentals to begin with. They got
Mm-hmm.
over because they could jump out of the gym, they could dunk on everybody, they could block every shot, and they could just put their head down and get to the bucket whenever they wanted.
Yep.
Versus, on the women's side, who you may have some athleticism, but it's in a different way. I won't say most. I'll say I think the majority of the women's game is kind of started from the fundamentals and built up. Where I think you see so many guys kind of start from the athleticism side and kind of just go from there. So, like I
Yep.
said, I think it's a more pure form. Um, I think, like I said, women, I mean, play hard. In my experience, I'll say girls play harder. They actually listen. You don't deal with as many egos. They actually listen to you and want to try to do what you're asking them to do.
Yes.
And I think more women are realistic. I mean, you know how it is. Like growing up,
Yeah.
heck, I was going to the league. I mean, we were all going to be number one picks. We were going to be playing on TV. Like we were all going to the league. Like, and I
Yep.
mean, I'm not saying kids shouldn't dream. I'm not saying that at all. Obviously, like dream to your heart's desire. But there comes a point in that where reality has to set in. Like when I played my last high school game and I knew, okay, this is it. Like there's still guys sitting on the couch 2-3 years removed from high school basketball, reliving the glory days, thinking, oh, I got overlooked. I'm slept on. I wasn't given a fair shot. All the crazy stuff that you hear. And it's just like, dude,
Yeah.
you really weren't like that to begin with. I hate to break it to you, but like that's just the reality of the situation. So
Yep.
like I said, I just think the women's game is a more pure form of the game. And just in my experience, I mean, girls are loyal. Like I said, they'll listen to you. I think they're more coachable. Um, and then I think it's just fun. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't really know how else to put it other than like my experience has just been a lot of fun. I think the young ladies that I've had the pleasure of coaching have just been fun to be around, even off the court. They've just been good people, easy to
Yeah.
laugh and joke and just converse with and just have real conversations with. And like I said, they're more realistic. So the majority of girls go into college basketball knowing like, okay, after these 4 years, I'm getting in my career. Like I'm not going to the WNBA. Like I'm here obviously for basketball, to help pay for my schooling, but
Mm-hmm.
this is just a gateway for me to get into my career. So, but the ones that come into it with the right mindset, they're gonna give you everything you got for those 4 years because
Mm-hmm.
they know this is it, like
Yeah.
forever. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit different mindset they're kind of coming into it. Like I said, in my experience, but I love the women's game, and I really wish more people would give it a chance. And it's amazing to see like how far it's coming. Obviously, social media has helped that tremendously. Obviously you're seeing more, men's basketball players really buying into the women's game, which obviously helps,
Oh yeah.
push the narrative. I mean, you're seeing obviously, my favorite player of all time, Kobe. Obviously, you were able to see like what he was able to do, before he passed, with Gigi, his daughter, and really,
Mm-hmm.
sparking interest in the women's game and obviously coaching his daughter's team. And young girls see that and they're able to shoot for something tangible because
Mm-hmm.
they're like, well, if she can do that, why can't I do that? So
Yeah.
it's just something that the more that we're able to push kind of the narrative forward of how good women's basketball actually is, it's only going to grow the game. And I mean, the stuff that some of these young girls are able to do now is just like insane.
Ridiculous.
I mean, I was fortunate. I actually went to the NCAA Final Four and national championship game in Minneapolis. So like the
Mm-hmm.
national championship game, so I saw UConn play South Carolina, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina ended up winning. But I mean, just to see Paige Beckers in person go to work, like it's unreal. Destiny Henderson has 29 points in the national championship game. It was going crazy. It's like this girl can like forget. And I think like it's one of those things like people say, and you hear it all the time, like for a girl, she's nice. I'm like, no, for a
No, she
hooper, she
nice.
is nice. Like, period.
Yeah.
It don't
Yeah.
matter. Guy, girl, like she's tough. Like Aaliyah
Yeah.
Boston and like all these, high caliber players. It's like guys, like if you would watch, you'd really be surprised at what you see because these girls can really hoop.
Yes,
so
man.
it so I mean that's my spill, but I mean, I love the women's game, and that's just kind of some of the differences. I know everybody's experience is probably different, but
Yeah.
like I said, it was the best decision I ever made, and I don't regret a second of it. So I love it.
I 100% agree and co-sign everything you said, man. Because from my point of view as a trainer, I work with guys and girls,
For
and
sure.
it's just like, first off, the automatic differences that you know of is the athleticism,
For
but
sure.
the underlayer neath in that people don't always think about is the girls have to be more skilled because they can't dunk. Like you said, a
For
guy can
sure.
get away with not being skilled. I'm gonna just run past you because I'm faster, stronger, more athletic than you.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't need skill to run past you. That's
For
easy to
sure.
do. I just run and dunk over you.
Absolutely.
It's easy. But versus a girl where, okay, we're the same speed, same size. I have to outthink my way to get past you now, which comes with more skill. So you have higher IQ and more skill now. So
For
combine
sure.
those two together, and you keep leveling up from there. And the guy goes 10 years without really having to become fully skilled to really get good at certain things. Of course, the gap is going to keep growing and wider and wider to where girls overall are more skilled than guys. Not to say
Uh,
guys aren't skilled, but the percentage pool of women's being skilled versus men's being skilled is totally different.
it's
So it's
it's
just,
it's a wide margin, wide
yes.
margin for sure.
Yeah, so that's the hands down biggest difference. And I think part of the realistic part of it too is that the opportunities for women's game is the margin of the gap between men's opportunity versus women's opportunities is completely different too. To where it's almost weird because a lot of the girls I train aren't even aware of the not they're not aware of it, but they don't fully know about the WNBA and that it's something that's attainable.
Yeah, for
Versus they
sure.
know NBA players, they know Steph, LeBron, KD, they can rattle off those names easy. Like I've heard of Candace Parker, I've heard of Sue Bird and Maya Moore. She no, I don't. And it's just weird to see because girls aren't even aware of that whole opportunity being there, man. So
Yeah,
I think that they aren't given the same amount of opportunities. Like you go to an open gym right now, you're gonna see 30 dudes in there who can't hoop, 3 or 4 girls on the sideline playing volleyball on the side, or they watching because their brother's there or something.
yeah, for sure.
And it might be one girl hooping there, and she probably cold or finna be cold because she's hooping with guys. So it's just
Yeah,
like they aren't given opportunities to have the same level of growth that the guys do. So I think that kind of makes a damper on their dreams to be a little more less realistic to where I can do something off after college basketball because
yeah.
only a handful will think about playing overseas or even having some type of pro career. But guys, every dude playing, he can go D3 or ongoing pro.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. No, I think it's one of those things, like I said, as we continue to push the narrative of the women's game, and I think it's just like anything, the more it's thrown in your face, the more you realize that, okay, this is an attainable thing. Like there is opportunity for me here.
yeah,
I agree. I think it's one of those things, like as much as obviously we as males should work to push the women's game forward, I think there's, equally as many females that have to acknowledge that women's basketball is actually good basketball, and B, like help, continue to push the narrative forward as well, because it's just like anything, the more women's players that young girls see as an attainable and intangible thing, like they gravitate towards that. Now the difference is I think you see a lot of girls kind of pick up basketball later than
mm-hmm.
guys do. Like, I mean, I started playing when I was 6 years old, like, and that just kind of was what it was. But a lot of times you won't see girls really lock in on basketball till, 8, 9, 10, sometimes even later than that, just
Mm-hmm.
because like you don't see youth girls basketball leagues at 6, 7, 8 years old. What do you see? You see a handful of girls playing with on the boys teams, right?
Yeah,
Because that just is what it is. So, I mean, that's just kind of what it is. I don't know if that'll ever change, and it's a little unfortunate, but like I said, it just kind of is what it is. But
yeah,
obviously with social media now, and um, the work that both the NBA, the WNBA, and really college basketball is doing to really push the women's game forward. My hope is, 20 years down the line, women's it's not like women's basketball is not one of those things to where like, I get asked all the time, like, what drove you to the women's game? Like, do you enjoy that? Like, why did you do that? Like, and just kind of like, not weirdness, but just so many questions around it. It's like, dude, like at the end of the day, I'm coaching college basketball. Like, And I
Yeah.
think if people would, like I said, really lock into it and give it a chance, they'd be impressed with what they see. But I think with that, the more that we drive it forward and push it out, obviously that sparks interest in more younger girls, at an earlier age, and kind of push that forward. And obviously from an opportunity standpoint, it's tough too because I mean you see on the men's side like you have, all these semi-pro leagues, like you have the G League, like you've got these overseas leagues, like you got the NBA, like you got, all these opportunities over here. And in women's basketball, you might have a semi-pro league here and there, but it's really either WNBA, which is extremely hard to make when you got 12 teams with 12 roster spots. So you got 144 players. So I mean, you got stud basketball players that aren't on WNBA rosters right now, which is crazy, but it just is what it is. Or you go play overseas, which is great, and you're gonna make more money, but the pub of that doesn't really translate back to here. So as many like American players that are playing overseas right now, like we're not fully aware of all of them because like I mean the overseas leagues aren't really televised here. So that takes away, I think, from some of those potential role models that young girls could see as potential opportunities just because it's not in our face. What's in our face is college basketball, obviously, and the WNBA. My hope is that, and obviously I know money and viewership, drives a lot of these things, but my hope is we get to a point to where we can expand the WNBA into some other cities, allow a few more roster spots, maybe get those rosters from maybe 12 to 14 and maybe allow a couple more players to play to spark some interest in these different areas that some of these players are coming from. And with that growth, maybe way down the line, maybe develop a women's, something like a G League or minor league system to where okay, maybe you aren't that level, but maybe you can play at a G League and still be considered professional, and that just sparks more interest. But at the end of the day, as unfortunate as it is, it really comes down to money and viewership and interest. But I just think it's up to us as a basketball community to accept women's basketball as basketball, well, number one, and two, just keep putting it in people's face and helping them understand, like, no, this is a good thing and it's actually very entertaining.
Oh yeah, man, and it's something I kind of thought about too, man. Like around the time the NBA started promoting the 75th anniversary season and stuff, and so the WNBA is about my age, it's around my age. I'm 26. So you comparing basically comparing a 26-year-old to a 75-year-old.
For sure, yeah,
it's not fair.
There's no comparison. Yeah, it's not fair, and I think a lot of people don't really take that into consideration because the WNBA is still so new. But I think, like I said, it's up to us to push it to a point to where the WNBA is forced to expand and give more opportunities and do those sorts of things, because that's only going to impact and improve the basketball community as a whole. But like you said, it's not fair to compare. Like, I mean, it's just not that, like, that's like comparing me as a coach, like going into my 6th year to Gino, like, or Dawn Staley. I'm a huge Dawn Staley fan. Like, that's like comparing me to Dawn Staley. Like, there's no comparison. And that's not fair for me to even think that I'm even in her tax bracket. So I think it's a similar type situation there. But I think, in due time, I think it'll happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it just takes time, man. And then another thing I was thinking about, too, you have to compare the timeline of it, too, because it wasn't too long ago, like around the 40s, like around the Bird Magic years, that the NBA was almost gone.
For sure. Yeah.
So you got to give it time, man. And that was like a little, I guess, in the 40s, I guess, around the age-wise of the league. So it takes a little more time, man. And so the WNBA is in a rough spot, but the men's basketball league was too. So I think, like you said, it takes more time to develop and grow and figure out the direction the league has to take. And, everybody plays a role in it. I can't sit here and just say all the ladies have to do this and the guys don't do anything, or it's on the league and not on us. Like, it's everybody that plays a part in this whole thing. So
for sure. It's up to us as the basketball community to continue to grow both sides, men and women's side, but obviously, the women's side, and continue to grow and push it forward.
Yeah. So do you see yourself sticking with the women's game long term, or just kind of like whatever happens, you'll go with it?
At this point, honestly, I love it so much. Like, I mean, I've learned to never say never because literally everything I said I would never do, I'm doing now. So, like, I mean, obviously, it would just have to be one of those things. Like, if it was the right opportunity and right timing and all that, I'd entertain, anything. But I love the women's game so much. Like, I've, started my coaching career in it, so my roots are in it. All of my connections are in the women's game. Like I said, as a recruiting coordinator, like, I mean, the connections to, AAU coaches, high school coaches, JUCO coaches are all on the women's side. So my roots are deep enough now to where if I switch back to the men's side, I'd be starting all over again because I'm so out of the loop with just those connections that, it'd be a process just to kind of get reestablished because I've been out of the men's game for so long. But I love the women's side. I mean, like I said, I can't see into the future, but my plan is to be in it, as long as possible. And honestly, forever. Like, I really don't have any plans of, kind of switching back. I love this side. And, I like the challenge of, being part of that, pushing the women's game forward and, kind of producing interest, sparking interest. And, I take that as a personal challenge, for me all the time. So, I'm not super heavy on social media, but I mean, I am somewhat active. So, like, I'll, tweet facts or retweet certain things or, comment on games or players or, this and that, just because I think it's because I mean, kids are watching that. I mean, how many kids are, that you're directly, in contact with or, follow you on social media or whatever. So, the more that we do that and they see us as role models, the more that sparks interest on their part to where, you hope that they grasp that and, they push it forward. So I love the women's game and I plan on staying in it, forever. So.
Man, I feel that too because I remember when I first got into it, I had like a semi-selfish goal, but I wanted to get a girl to the WNBA and get her a shoe deal. Like,
Yeah.
is that a stretch goal? Of course it is, but why not
Hey,
aim
why
for that
not?
challenge? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Why not? I mean, I think the opportunities, especially for us, I mean, heck, for me to even be sitting where I am and for you to be doing what you're doing, I mean, 10 years ago, there's no way in the world that we thought that what we're doing now was attainable. So it's like, why not stretch that and see how far we can go with this thing? So I'm all for it. Like I said, I think you do have to be realistic when it comes to goal setting and dreaming, but at the same time, like, I'll tell anybody, dream big. I mean, it's an old Kanye line, reach for the stars. So if you fall, you land in the clouds. Like, that's real. Like, and hey, go get that WNBA player and shoe deal. Like, I'm all for it.
Yeah, man, that's something I'm aiming for, man. But it's a long road. Now I'm not gonna be upset if I don't get it, but like I know my heart's in the right place, so I feel like honestly, I'm not even saying this arrogantly. I really believe I can get a girl in that situation, not right now, but like over time develop
Yeah,
and grow
for
to
sure.
where it's attainable, to where even if it's not WNBA, something where it's pro overseas or something like that. But
For sure.
that's something I see down the line for me, man. But what's my next question? Oh, for you, like, do you see yourself growing into more of like head coach at your own school or staying D2, going D1, high major D1, or possible pro job? Like, what do you see for yourself, long term?
Yeah, so much of that is a moving target because the way the coaching world works, like, so much of it is about A, who you know,
Yep.
connections are everything, and B, just the timing. So, like I said, the West Florida thing, like, was so weird because I was not planning on leaving Faulkner at all, really. Like, I knew we were gonna have a really good team the following year. Like, I was going into my fourth year as the assistant there, and I had my roots there. Like, I was locked in and ready to go. And then overnight, the opportunity came about at West Florida, and like, I jumped on it, and ultimately that ended up being a job for me. So. I think down the line, I mean, competitively, it'd be obviously cool to run my own program and be a head coach. I still think I've got some learning and developing to do before that happens. But I mean, down the line, I think I'd be crazy to say like, oh, I'll never do that. Like, it's one of those things though. Like, I think if you land in the right situation with the right coaching staff, and I mean, if I ended up being a career, assistant coach for, the right head coach, and that just kind of was what it was. Like Gino's assistant has been with him for like ever.
Yeah.
Same with Don Staley and some other coaches at the highest level. So if it was in a situation like that, I mean, I'd be open to that. Like, and then as far as just level goes, like, I have an appreciation for all levels. So like I'm not so caught up on D1 or bust. Like I said, I started out at an NAI and loved it. I'm at the D2 level now. Like I think competitively, I think obviously that would be the next kind of check mark off of my personal, I guess, challenge list to
Yeah.
not only, get at that level, but succeed at that level. So I think competitively, if that happened, that'd be cool. But like I said, it would all boil down to right timing, right fit, and the right people. Because where I'm at now at West Florida, like I got a really good situation. Like, I mean, we're crazy competitive. We're championship caliber, not just program, athletic department. Like we've got resources. I got a great location, got a great campus. So I would not leave my situation here just because another D1 was after me. Because honestly, my situation is better than a lot of mid and low major division ones. So I'd be crazy to downgrade just because it was a D1. Because like the thing that people don't realize is all D1s are not created equal. Like there's levels to it. Like even like in mid majors, I mean it's like in any level. Like obviously you got your at D2 where I'm at, so you got your your top of the line D2s that are powerhouses that are honestly Division II caliber programs. You got your in betweens and you got your D2s that aren't very good. I mean it's the same with the Division I level. Like so all D1s aren't created equally. So anything that I got would have to be better than what I've got now. Because like I said, I've got a great situation and I'm really, thriving where I am. And I've got my hands in a little bit of everything. And I've got a direct impact on the success of our program. Because like I said, it's our head coach, me and a GA. So any success that we have, I'm directly, impacting that. And, not to pat myself on the back, but that's a good feeling when I know, like, I helped us go 19-8, coming off of a year where they were like 9-11 the year prior. Like, we had, so I worked with the post players. I had 2 all-conference post players. I had a first-team all-conference kid and a freshman of the year. Like, I work with those kids and help develop them every day. So, like, it's cool to be able to say, like, I had a direct impact on the outcome of the success of our program versus, at the D1 level. You might do some of those things, but if you've got 4 or 5 assistants, your priorities are stretched a little bit because you're kind of narrowed in and focused on more specific things versus like kind of the broad spectrum of how a program is run. So I don't know. Like I said, the coaching world, I mean, you have to be flexible because it could all change literally overnight. Obviously if you get the right call from the right person, I mean, you'll be crazy not to entertain, certain things. But I think right now I'm just really focused on really developing myself, really continuing to learn and grow because I want to be as well-rounded as a coach as I can be, really regardless of what level I end up at. I want to be, the most well-rounded coach I can be and, just kind of learn as many aspects of how to run a program as I can. And I'm fortunate that I'm in a spot where my head coach, she allows me to be involved with those things and really learn. I mean, she's been a coach at the Division I level, literally her whole entire career until she got to UWF, both as a player and a coach. So I'm really fortunate to be in that seat and to learn from somebody like her who's got so much experience.
I respect that, man, because it got to make sense for you. And
for sure,
like you said, if Don call you up like, yo, we got
now listen, if Don calls me up, I'm out tonight. I'll drive to South Carolina. Like I love West Florida, but I'll see y'all when I see you. Like that's going down. But anything other than that, it would have to be, like I said, the right fit and the right situation. But yeah, Don calls, I'm out immediately.
Yeah, I feel you, bro. So all right, man. I'm gonna need your help with something. Okay.
For sure.
So let's say I am a high school point guard and I want to get recruited, not specifically to West Florida, but I want to get recruited to a college.
For sure.
What are some key points that I need to know, some key points that I need to consider, make sure I have, like what do I need to do to have my ducks in order to make sure I'm on the table of being a good college recruit.
For sure. So there's I think a couple things that kids can do, obviously, to help their case to be, put themselves in front of coaches to be seen and be recruited. I think, well, first and foremost, you got to be good enough. I mean, let's start
Yeah.
there. I mean, obviously, like, it's one thing to want to be recruited, but if you're not good enough to play at the college level, like, that really doesn't matter. So, I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of the foundation of it all. And as harsh as that may sound to some, and as many kids that play college basketball, there's a lot of them out there that just aren't good enough for that level. And that's completely fine. Like, that doesn't define you as a person. You're just not good enough to play at the college level, which is fine.
Yeah.
Find something else to do. There's a million other things out there. But for the kids, obviously, that are good enough to play at the college level, obviously, the more that your high school head coach can do to promote you, send game film, send highlights, make connections to coaches, and not big time levels. I think that's the thing that you're seeing a lot of now, because so many coaches out there are so ego driven that they'll look down on me as a Division II because I'm a Division II, and try to push their kid to a D1. And I'm like, well, this kid would be a role player for us. So how is she going to be a Division I player if she be a role player for us? So I think you have to be realistic about the level of player that you are. And the bottom line is, you are the level that you're being recruited by. So in your mind, like, I can think I'm Power 5, but if I don't have any Power 5 offers, I'm not a Power 5 player. Like,
Yeah.
as simple as that sounds, like, you'd be amazed at how many, like, just unrealistic players and coaches there are out there. So I think, first off, you got to start there. I think you have to be realistic about the level of what you are. Second, like I said, your coach has to be active in, promoting you, pushing you out to the right level, of coaches, obviously D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, whatever. So the more that they can, put game film out there, highlights, obviously, players. I'm not one of those guys that believes that AAU is the only way that you can be recruited, because I do realize there are people out there that just can't afford it, because AAU is expensive. Like, I get it. So if you can't afford it, I think there are other ways that you can go about that. But obviously, if you do play AAU, you want to make sure that you're playing for a team that's going to tournaments where coaches are going to be at, because there's a lot of AAU teams out here that's playing at tournaments, and I'm like, that's fine, you're playing AAU, but there's no coaches there. So it's like, what ultimately do you want to get out of this? Do you want to just, play some travel basketball on the side just to say I played AAU? Or do you want to be seen? Because if you want to be seen, you got to go to these big tournaments where coaches are going to be, these NCAA certified events. So, like, you want to make sure you're going to an AAU program that's obviously going to give you the opportunity to play in front of coaches and be seen. And obviously elite camps. Like,
Yeah.
I think elite camps are huge. And I think every like, obviously the two schools that I've been directly involved with, we heavily recruit kids out of our elite camps. Like, I think people downplay, like, how important those elite camps are to us, because are there specific kids that we invite to elite camp? Absolutely. Like, if I see a kid at a tournament that I'm like, this kid's a stud, I got to get her on my campus, I want to be around her, I want to develop a relationship, of course I'm going to invite them to our elite camp. But the thing that people don't realize is, like, our elite camps are open to the public. Like, I can't just shut it off. Like, the only thing I can shut off is, like, age. So I can say, like, I want this to only be high school kids or, like, whatever. But, like, I can't say, like, oh, you're not good enough, so you can't attend. So, like, as many kids as I might invite, there might be a kid show up that I knew nothing about, that it's like, okay, I didn't know about you, but now you're on my radar because, you took a chance, you came to my elite camp, you showed out. So now I'm like, well, shoot, I need to get in contact with you, develop a relationship with you. But even with that, like I said, there's levels to it. You have to be realistic about what elite camps you're going to. Like, it doesn't make sense for the average kid to pay crazy money to go to South Carolina's elite camp. Like I said, I'm not telling you not to dream, but the reality is, Dawn Staley's not recruiting 5-stars out of her elite camp. That's not how that works. Like, the caliber of kids that they're going after are in a different tax bracket. Like, so they're having elite camps. Obviously, for the odd chance that there might be one out of the 300 kids that's there that might be good enough to play in the SEC. But those fringe kids that aren't Power 5, and even if you're mid and low major Division 1, you need to be going to mid and low major Division 1 elite camps. You need to be going to Division 2 elite camps. You need to be going to NAIA elite camps because, like I said, you are the level that you're being recruited by, and you have to be realistic about where you are as a player. So putting yourself out there and, developing relationships with coaches and playing in front of coaches, at those various levels and getting feedback, honestly, from those coaches, because we have kids all like in our elite camp, we actually have a Q&A session at the end with parents and players. And we say, literally, ask anything you want. This is an open book. We're going to be open and honest with you, like whatever. And we get this question a lot. What does it take to get recruited? And I think that's one of the things that's not talked about enough is like just being realistic about the level that you are. Because if you start there at the base and really lock in on that, I think the rest kind of takes off, on its own. And realizing like at the small college level, like we use elite camps as a huge recruiting tool because like I don't have the budget that South Carolina has. I can't pick up and fly to California to go see one game and come back. Like we're not made of money like that. So like the more kids that I can either A, see at an AAU event or B, that attend our elite camp, that fits into our recruiting budget because obviously we've got money, but I mean, we don't have SEC money. Like I said, there's levels to this. So like, just being realistic about that. And, but even like I said, sending game film, like sending full games, like, so I can see the full picture. Like I can make myself look like Kobe on a highlight film. Like, I mean, let's be real. Like your highlight is just a thing that's going to kind of pique the interest. But like, I got to see the full picture to determine like, okay, are you really good enough? Because I you see it happen all the time. Like there's sometimes, and I get a million emails from kids literally all over the world, like every day. And I'll get these highlight films and I'm like, oh shoot, this girl can do this or like do that. Let me go let me go research some stats or let me go look at some game film. Yeah, she hit 5 threes in a highlight, but she went 5 for 40 on the season from 3. So every 3 that she hit on the season was in that highlight. So it can be a little misleading if you don't do your homework on that. So, but I'm not saying they're not important because they do pique the interest because as a recruiter, you kind of know what you're looking for. So like kids can do certain things and I can be like, okay, this kid is somebody I need to look into deeper. Or I'll watch the highlight and be like, she's not quite for us, on to the next one type of thing. But I just think the more active that your coaches can be, in your corner, really promoting you to the right coaches, that only helps your cause. And I'm not, like I said, I don't think you have to play AAU to get recruited, but obviously if you can, it helps. But you need to make sure you're playing for a program that's going to do you some good and put you in front of coaches. Because otherwise, you're paying all that money to travel and stuff literally for no reason. Like, I mean, I won't say no reason. You're playing basketball and developing. So, like, your game, like, you're playing basketball. Like, obviously, you're going to improve by playing. But, like, ultimately, AAU is to give, put you in front of coaches to get an opportunity. So, if you're not playing in front of coaches, like, we're wasting time, effort, and money here. So, but those are kind of the things that I kind of, tell kids to really look to do to kind of help their cause to get recruited. And I mean, you just got to be persistent. Like it's just one of those things. Like you can't get discouraged by getting no's, because I mean it's harsh, but there are kids that I have great relationships with that are just not good enough to play for our program, and that's completely fine. That does not define you as a player, because literally I don't know really where this narrative came that I had to have 20 offers to like be accepted. You can only go to one school. So really like all I need is one opportunity. And if you get the right opportunity from the right coach and the right system that caters to your needs, that's all you need. So you just have to be persistent in reaching out to coaches at various levels, getting feedback. And like I said, all you need is one yes. And then once you get that yes, it's up to you to prove them right for taking the chance on you, and B, earning your keep by, keeping that scholarship every year you're there, and, holding up your end of the bargain by, obviously being academically eligible and, playing and developing on the basketball side. So I don't know where that narrative came from. I think I think it's one of those things that's a byproduct of social media because obviously you
Yep.
see kids posting offers and
Yeah.
obviously there are those caliber of kids that do have 20 and 30 offers, but I think in the grand scheme, kids don't realize like that's such a small portion of kids that have like that level. Like
Yeah.
the majority of kids, you're gonna have a handful of offers, maybe 3, 4. Some kids maybe 2. Some kids maybe only 1. But like I said, who cares? You can only go to one school, so all you need is one coach to take a chance on you. And like I said, it's up to you to prove them right at that point. And
Mhm.
you hear all the time,
Yep.
bet on yourself, and go make it happen.
Yeah. The whole social media thing is kind of messed stuff up to where people don't appreciate, like, there are so many kids every year that get done with high school, even not even varsity level, but JV or freshman, to where it's like, that's my last time picking up a basketball.
For
I
sure.
wanted to play college basketball.
Yeah.
And you have an offer. It doesn't matter where it's from. You have an offer. And a lot of kids will take that offer 10 times over versus having none. So
Yep.
like we have to be a little more appreciative of whatever level we have, whatever how many we have. It's like just appreciate the fact that somebody at that level above high school said, I would like for you to play for me. So the social media thing has kind of messed it up a little bit to where kids feel like, oh, I don't have 20 offers, so I'm not good enough. But it's like, bro, you have two, you have one.
No,
Like,
for sure. Yeah. I think and I could be, so don't quote me on this, but it's been a couple years since I've seen this stat. But last I checked, I think it's like 7% of all kids in the world go on to play college athletics. So, I mean,
mm,
you think about that, like 7%, like that's like none. So,
yeah,
like, how have we gotten to a point to where like getting an offer almost isn't even like good enough for some kids, depending on who you ask. So, like you said, like, I think social media has kind of driven this narrative to where like we've almost downplayed like how special getting a
mm,
college athletics offer really is. Like,
yeah,
I didn't get that. Like, like I said, and now I'm on the other side. I actually like provide the opportunity for kids, but it's crazy to me, like, when I approach a kid or, we offer a kid and they kind of look down on it, but it's like, okay, A, what else do you have?
mm,
And B, like, okay, how dare you sit here and downplay me when I've got a million other kids in my emails right now that are literally dying just to even get a consideration. So, like, don't sit here and downplay how special that opportunity really is. Cause like you said, there's millions of kids out there that would love to get your offer and they just won't for whatever reason. But I think social media is great in a lot of ways, but I think that's
mm-hmm,
one of the ways where unfortunately it's not so great just because it kind of paints an unrealistic picture in
yeah,
that aspect. But I mean, it's just one of those things, like it is what it is. But obviously, the ones that take the offers and appreciate it are the ones that thrive and go on to do well, and they're appreciative for the opportunity that they got, for athletics to, pay for their academics. And obviously, for the ones that go pro, that's even a smaller percentage. So
mm-hmm,
it's just be appreciative, man. Like people are investing money in you. Like I think people don't really like when I break it down for people, and I don't want to go on a soapbox, but I say this all the time. Like my livelihood, my job, the way I eat and pay my bills is predicated on 18 to 22-year-old kids being successful on a basketball court. Like when you think about that, like it's kind of
mm-hmm,
crazy, but
mm-hmm,
like that's how serious it is. So like I have to be on the top of my game to get the right kids in our program to help us be successful so I can keep my job. So if I'm investing money in you, there's more than just money that goes into this. I'm banking
yeah,
on you because I gotta eat, man. Like
yeah, yeah.
I gotta pay my bills. And like obviously, like I don't look at that selfishly, but I mean that is a factor. Like if
It's real.
somebody's willing to invest money in you to do anything, how dare
Yeah,
you like look down on that? Like I mean,
yeah,
obviously NIL now is nuts. I mean, obviously, you see millions of dollars being shot around. And obviously that's such a small because that's such a small portion of college kids that will ever see that kind of money. But
yeah,
um, with NIL now, like almost a college scholarship isn't good enough because now there's money thrown into the situation. That's a whole nother story. But
Mm.
it's just be thankful, man. Like money is money is not something that's, like I said, thrown around lightly. So I gotta eat
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't think people think about that. Like once you get out of high school basketball, it's straight business. Like whatever
Business.
wherever you playing is business, and like somebody lives and dies off of what you're doing. And so it's like you can't take that lightly. Even high school's kind of getting a little more politics and a little bit
Yep.
more business wise with certain stuff. But for sure, like once you get past high school basketball, it is all business to where my family and kids are, like you said, predicated on what you do. So I'm
Absolutely.
not just offering this opportunity out of my livelihood to any kid in
Just because
America.
I like you, or just because I
Yeah,
like whatever. Like I need you to come here and hoop and help us be successful, so we can win games and I can keep my job. So we
yeah,
both benefit. Like it's not even a selfish thing. Obviously, if we do what we're supposed to do, we both benefit. But like
exactly.
ultimately, if we go 3 4 years of just being terrible, I'm not going to be here because I'm going to get fired because my head coach is going to get fired. And then the new coach that comes in, they don't have to keep you around. So if
Mm-hmm.
they come in and let you go, we're all out of, an opportunity and a job. So, like you said, it's a business. And I think people that aren't in it don't realize like it's that serious. But I mean, it
Yeah,
really is like that serious.
yeah. Yeah, I can keep you here all night. We can be asked. I can ask you like a billion more questions about recruiting and stuff, man. But I just got two, maybe three more questions I want to ask
Okay,
you, man. So,
for sure.
um, for one, I want you to give me it can be a player, a coach, somebody you personally worked against, or whatever. Somebody who's like in the industry that is a little underrated, but you feel like, man, like people don't know about this person or this girl, this guy, like they're
Yeah.
underrated. Like a coach you seen, a trainer, a player, whoever, somebody that's a little underrated, and you got an opportunity right here to show them some love, man. So who would that be for you?
So obviously, I'm going to be biased and probably talk about my own kids on my team. But
Go ahead.
I think a more I'll be general and then I'll be specific. So I'll give you a 2-part answer. So
All
I
right.
think that the general side of that is as far as people in the industry that don't get enough love, I think it's players and coaches at the lower levels that aren't Division One. Like some of the
Yes.
best coaches in the country coach at JUCOs, high
Yeah.
schools, even
Yeah.
D3s, NAIs, D2s. Like I think because of social media and TV and stuff, we've kind of created this narrative that the best coaches in the world are at the Division 1 level. Well, yeah, some of them, but I've seen many coaches that are more than qualified to be at that level that either A, just love where they are, or B, just haven't been given the right opportunity in the right situation to get to that level, or some honestly don't desire to be at that level because Division 1 is so much more cutthroat than
Mm-hmm.
some of the lower levels. So I think some of the best coaches in the world are at some of the lower levels. So I think coaching at our level doesn't get enough love. And obviously, I work for a head coach that, like I said, her entire career she was at the Division 1 level until she came to UWF. So she is a whatever you consider a Division 1 coach, like she is that and has been
Yeah.
there, done that, been successful. So I think they don't get enough love. And then B, just the players at lower levels. Like I think, like you said, people think that if you're not playing Division 1, you're not good enough. Well, I got a laundry list of kids that I've either coached or coached against on both the men's and women's side, both NAIA and Division 2, that like are like that for real and can really hoop and are really like good basketball players. But like I said, there's good players at every level. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
people don't realize like that the part that goes into investing money in a player, like every team has good players. Now, obviously, some records are better than others, like, and there are some variables. But the bottom line is these kids were handpicked to
Yeah.
come and do a job at these universities. So I think coaching and players at the lower levels don't get enough love. Um, and then like I'll be careful because I don't want to single anybody out because I love my team obviously, but like I mean we've got a combination of Division 1 transfers on our team, we've got Division 2 transfers on our team, we've got high school kids on our team. Um, so I mean we've got a little bit of everything, but I mean um, I think people would be surprised if they came in and saw like what our practices are like, what our film
Mm-hmm.
sessions are like. Like I said, the talent. in our conference, what we have to play against, which makes if I think if people really gave the lower levels a chance and really saw what we had to compete against, they would understand why we recruit the way that we do.
Mm,
Because people think like, oh, you're not a Division 1, so I know my kid can play for you. I'm like, I'm sorry to tell you, but nah, she can't. And like, it's nothing personal, but like, if you see
mm,
what I have to go beat, I have to go
mm,
recruit like that caliber. So it don't make sense for me to go recruit something lesser than that and
yeah,
expect a different result. Like that's just not gonna happen. So um I mean, obviously I love my team and obviously I help put them together. So I'm even more biased in that
yeah.
aspect. But I mean, we've got, crazy talented players on our team. Like I said, we had a first team all conference player last year. I mean, hey, she was a Division 1 transfer and actually started at the Division 1 she was at. So it's not even like she was a scrub where she was at. She was playing and
Mm,
starting.
yeah.
But some things went down and she wanted kind of a culture change and just kind of wanted a new, a change of scenery. She was averaging about 8 or 9 points and about 6 rebounds at the D1 she was at. Came to our place, locked in. She averaged 17 points and 13 rebounds a game last year. Like she was
Mm,
top 3 in the country in double doubles. She was top 5 in rebounds per game. And I mean, she had 3 20-point, 20 rebound games. So like,
oof,
I mean, her best game of the year, she had like 25 points and 22 rebounds. So like, I laugh at people when they say like, oh, lower levels, like that's easy. I'm like, dude, like I'm
yeah,
coaching against like hoopers.
yeah, yeah.
Like and like I said, she was a Division 1 caliber player that started where she was, just wanted to change the scenery, but
Mm,
came here and really thrived and should be a favorite for player of the year going into next year just based off of what she did last year. And obviously we've got to do our part and win and help her out. But I mean,
yeah.
she should be a favorite going into the year for player of the year. Like I said, we had a freshman of the year last year. We got, we brought in 4 Division 1 kids, 4 Division 2 kids, and an NAIA transfer. So, like I said, that's kind of a long answer to a short question, but I'll say collectively, the lower levels I think have to get more love because I think if people really did their diligence and really locked into the coaches and players at our levels and other
Mm,
levels that aren't D1, they'd be like, okay, I get it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
college basketball is college basketball, like regardless.
Yeah, I gotta agree, man, because it's like you said, college basketball is college basketball, and I've watched a lot of basketball in my years, man. Like I was one of them kids that was D1 or bust, and it's just nothing else below that mattered. It made sense, but I became a little bit more wiser.
For
I got some
sure.
game put on me where it's
For
like, yo,
sure.
like D2 can hoop, some D3s can hoop, JUCO, like all this stuff is at the end of the day, it's college basketball. So you got to put some more respect on that, man. So uh the final question I'm gonna ask for you, man. Like I told you, I had to learn about the levels of college basketball, man.
Hmm.
And but even bigger than that, like what's a life lesson that a coach has taught you or like you learned from the game of basketball, or you can tell me about what you've learned about yourself throughout this process that you've been on, like from each level that you've been at.
Yeah. So, well, I'll start with myself. I've learned that I can adapt quickly because, like I said, every position I've had, I've been thrown into the fire. So I didn't have a choice. Like, I mean, obviously you can ask some questions here and there, but I don't always have time to sit down and have this grand scheme to figure things out. Like when my number is called, I got to produce. So I think that's a good skill to have to just be adaptable. I think any good coach will tell you like a trait of being a good coach is being adaptable because at any moment,
Mm-hmm.
like I have to be flexible enough to you know, change or come up with an idea or a thought or like in the heat of a moment. If in the heat of a game, literally this happened last year. So like this is just a prime example. So we're playing actually University of Montevallo team in our conference, and we had the ball, called a timeout with like 8 seconds to go to win the game. Game is tied. We call a timeout, advance the ball on the sideline. My head coach comes to me in the timeout and is like, what are we going to run to win this game? So, like, I can, in that moment, panic and choke, or I can pony up and trust my preparation and be quick thinking and give her the input that she's looking for because she hired me to do that. So, I know the preparation I've put in on the front end. So I'm like, coach, listen, we can run this play. We got two options. We got two kids on this team on the floor that need to take this shot. A or B. We can run this play for A, run this counter for B. One of those is gonna work. Well, B counter worked. Our freshman of the year, we got it into her. She goes in, lays the ball up, we win the game. So I don't say it to take credit, but I'm just saying like you have to be adaptable in those moments because literally like it could come down. Your number could be called at any moment, and you have to like be ready for that. I think another thing that I've learned, like B, is just like being able to relate to people. Because, like, I mean, you think about it, like, people skills are so important in like every aspect of life. Like, you're gonna be dealing with people literally until the end of time. So,
Yeah.
everything I do as a coach, um, almost is for somebody else. Like I'm
Yeah.
obviously working for my head coach, and then I'm coaching our players. I'm helping develop them, both academically and on the basketball floor. And then just in our athletic department, there's different things that we have to do, compliance, academic eligibility, just a laundry list of things. So people skills has been, a huge growth. And just me, even outside of coaching, just me personally. And as a recruiter, like I'm the first line of contact to everybody that comes in contact with our program. So I mean, you're kind of thrown into that early on, and you can either sink or swim. And like that's one thing that I've kind of taken and ran with, and that's really helped me grow. And I think just being able to work with people and work in a team setting. I think obviously there are certain jobs out there that you kind of, I mean, if you work on your own or whatever, but I mean, just being able to work with people, being able to, be a team player, obviously having a backbone and stand for what you believe in, but being adaptable enough to not be so stubborn to be like my way or the highway.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of little things like that. I think that individually, I continue to learn and grow, and um, things that really stretch you, even like I said, as a person, even outside of coaching. And then what was the second part of that question again? I know that was individually, and you said
Like the
repeat that
game
for me.
overall, or a coach has taught you like that's not just related to basketball, but it's bigger than basketball that you apply to your life.
Yeah, yeah. So I've had a lot of coaching mentors over the years that have really helped me get to where I am, and I think I've taken bits and pieces from every one of them. Um, something as small as just kind of their philosophy or their beliefs on certain things or why they handle things a certain way. I mean, I could literally be here all night and tell you specific things from because I've worked for four head coaches now. So I mean, that's so in a, I don't know, I guess 15-year span from a manager to an assistant coach. Now I've been involved with college basketball, both on the men's and women's side. So I mean, just the knowledge that I've gained from literally just sitting back and listening,
Mm.
and just being adaptable and not being afraid to ask questions and even sometimes challenging coaches. Okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Why are you saying that?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you believe that way? Or like, what are you trying to get out of that? Like, and not in a disrespectful way. I'm asking
Yeah.
because I'm trying to learn and grow myself. Because
Yeah.
you might say something that might spark something that I never thought about, or I might have an idea or a counter offer that maybe you never thought about.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously as a head coach, if they're adaptable and not too prideful, which none of mine have been, they might be like, "Dang, you're right. I never thought about that," or like whatever. So, um, but I think all of my head coaches like have breed confidence in me. Like all of them have convinced me that I'm better than what I am. Because like, I mean, I'm a humble guy. Like I don't like to brag or I don't like, take a lot of credit for things, but all of them have really instilled a lot of confidence in me that I'm good at what I do. Cause I mean, you don't get to where I've gotten, I mean, not be somewhat good at what you're doing. I mean, I think that's safe to say. So, I mean, I think that's been great. I've gotten a lot of good feedback for, strengths and weaknesses, constructive criticism. And, all of my coaches have really, pushed me and challenged me and, different areas that are strengths and weaknesses to obviously make the weaknesses strengths. So, um, it's probably too much to say just a specific, just because I have learned so much. But I have learned, like I said, I've worked for four head coaches, and I've taken so much from each of them, and really kind of created and molded what the beginnings of my own kind of, I guess, coaching philosophy, if you want to call it. And learning it's a never ending thing, but I think the biggest thing is you just can't be too proud to learn, and you have to accept the fact that you don't know it all. Like that's why I laugh at some of these social media coaches, because I'm like, first off, you've never coached. Second, some of y'all have never played sports at all. And third, like I said, you think you have all the answers until you're in my spot, because it's a different scenario when you're in the seat, to where like outcomes are predicated on like your preparation and your background and like your success and like different things. So it's a high pressure environment, but I mean, as a competitor, like I love that. And like I said, being thrown into the fire is, where I feel like I'm been stretched the most. So been very fortunate to be involved with college sports for 15 years as a 29-year-old. I mean, not many can say that, but I've met a lot of great people and learned a lot of things, and I don't, plan on stopping that. Learning never ends.
That is so true, man. Like, I think I try to stress this on my players, man, to always, like, I kind of bully my kids into this, but I don't feel bad about it at all. But at the end of every session, I force them to ask me a question.
For sure.
You have to come up with something to ask me. It can be about what we went over today, something basketball related, whatever. And just because it kind of forces them to think and to like, I'm bullying you into thinking. Like, think the game, think through. Nobody asked me why we went over what we did today. Ask me that, honestly. That should be the end question of every session that we have. It's like, why? Because now you're thinking the game and you understand, and I try to do a good job of teaching that stuff too, but like still ask me something to where you're curious and you're learning more. So I completely co-sign that, brother. Like, we always have to be a little more curious about things and be big learners and swallow our pride to where you're not a know-it-all.
For sure.
So that's probably a great spot to land this plane of this episode. It's been a dope podcast, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. So.
Yeah, man, this was fun. I enjoyed it. If you ever want to do it again, I'm open. Let's do this thing again, man.
Yeah, we might have to do a part 2, because I had so many more questions that you made me want to go into. Like, it's just a lot, man. I could sit here all day and ask more questions. But anything else you want to promote? Anything before we get out of here?
Take a chance, everybody. Watch women's basketball. Give it a shot. Let's push this narrative forward and show love to the little guys, because, like I said, college basketball is college basketball. But other than that, like I said, I think it's up to us as the basketball community to keep pushing this thing forward. And, that's a challenge that I think we all should take seriously. I know I'm, trying to do my part, and I would ask the same of, everybody else. So let's keep pushing this thing forward.
Yes, sir. I got to agree with you, man. So that's a wrap. That's it for this BeBall Jones podcast episode. Make sure that you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're listening on Apple, go ahead and do your thing right there. Subscribe, follow along. If you're on Spotify, Google Play, or podcast, anywhere else that you get your podcast, go ahead and subscribe in. You can follow our guest right here, Coach Harrison. Follow him on Twitter at Coach J Harrison1 on Twitter. Show him some love, man. Go out to the elite camps. If you want to get recruited, go to D2. Go ahead and go to the elite camps, man. He just gave you the game on how to get recruited, man. So don't sleep on that. But follow him on Twitter. Hit him up. I'm pretty sure he'd be free to answer any questions that you guys have, anything like that. Follow me on social media. Any social media you got, type in BeBall Jones, BeBall Jones. You'll find me there. That's basically how it is. Follow my co-host, Nelson. Follow him, NailerH34 on Twitter. Nelson Haskin, Nelson.Haskin on IG, and Nelson Haskin on Facebook. Follow our podcast TikTok. It is the BeBall Jones podcast on TikTok. Got a lot of videos up there, just clips and stuff you guys need to get from these episodes, man. But that's it, man. Make sure you guys show him some love, show him how much you appreciate him coming on the podcast, and give him some love for giving you guys so much free game, and take some time out of his busy schedule, as we just heard about, recruiting going everywhere, man, to show some love. But that's it, man. Thank you guys for listening, and we out.